fires, fights, flash grenades on city streets. Protests in the middle of Melbourne against an international weapons expo turned violent.
Get back!
The real disruptors, the real opposers of peace, are the people assembled in that room.
They are actually an encouragement to war. They trickle down to militias all around the world, civil wars. They help kill kids in Gaza.
More than 1,000 protesters gathered, blocking streets around the convention centre.
Shame! Shame!
Many of the Expo's attendees were forced to run the gauntlet. Some delegates needed protection to enter the conference before police pushed protesters further back.
Just in absolute shock and horror that, this event has been supported by a government to be put on our city.
The Victorian government won't say what hosting the Expo has cost taxpayers, but claims it will bring in $70 million.
There is the right to protest peacefully, of course, but to behave in such a disgraceful way towards members of Victoria Police who are there doing their job, to protect community safety.
The protesters have just said that they're deciding to pull back momentarily. They are planning to come back to continue this campaign, but you can see the numbers have thinned out. The numbers of police, however, have not. Victoria Police says this is potentially their biggest operation in more than 20 years.
Victoria Police say more than 30 people were arrested as police and horses were targeted. 24 officers, including some from interstate, needed medical attention. The police chief claiming some were sprayed with a low-grade acid.
They come here to protest against anti-war, so presumably anti-violence. The only way I can describe them is a bunch of hypocrites. Their conduct today was absolutely appalling.
It's police brutality. You can see it. We're peaceful protesters and they sprayed us like this.
The Greens are calling for an inquiry into police tactics, accusing officers of using excessive force, with one MP attending.
Since I turned up, I've seen the police deploy an absolutely disgusting amount of force against protesters.
All I can say is that's rubbish. We have conducted ourselves appropriately. We have conducted ourselves properly.
Police say they will be back out in force tomorrow, but are hoping for a quieter day.
And Natalie Whiting joins us now. Nat, what's expected over the coming days?
Well, Tam, the conference has wrapped up for today, but you may be able to see there are still police here and their bollards remain in place, and that's because there are 2 more days of this conference to go and there are more protests planned, although not all of them are pickets like what we saw today. There's an overarching group called Disrupt Land Forces. It has plans for a rally elsewhere in the city, but there are a series of groups that are taking part in these protests, so it's possible some of them will come back here. One of the groups who took part today was Students for Palestine. They released a statement this evening saying that they managed to seriously disrupt the Expo today. They also said that 2 protesters had been hospitalised, one hit with rubber bullets and another hit with a baton, and they criticised the weapons that police were using. In terms of tomorrow, we'll have to wait and see how the protests unfold, but in terms of today, the convention managed to unfold inside despite what was happening out here, and the ABC's defence correspondent Andrew Green was there.
Inside Australia's largest weapons fair, a glimpse of the latest lethal technology.
An uncrewed ground vehicle meant to take soldiers away from the dirty, dull and dangerous.
Hundreds of defence firms are showing off their wares at this year's International Land Forces exhibition. Inside Melbourne's Convention Centre, several Israeli companies trying to sell weapons to Australia that are battle-tested in the Middle East.
To bring our experience from our region and our knowledge and the know-how from the last 3 and 4 decades.
Senior military officers from across the world are also here to exchange ideas on improving land warfare.
Defence and security, that is preserving and protecting Australia's and Australians' way of life and our national interest is a whole-of-nation endeavour.
And protests outside don't seem to be causing much concern.
I'm proud to lead an army that for 123 years has been defending the right of Australians to protest peacefully.
So far, the massive police presence both inside and outside the convention centre has managed to keep all protesters at bay. This so-called Ring of Steel has done its job, but there are still 2 days to go. Andrew Green, ABC News, Melbourne.